Hi, so welcome everyone. I'm Scott and I'm here with Monica and Justin, and we are live on Facebook and Twitter to talk about graduate apprenticeships. So for those who don't know what graduate apprenticeships are, a graduate apprenticeship allows you to study for a university degree while in full-time paid employment. So with a graduate apprenticeship, you get the benefit to earn while you learn. You develop vital industry skills in a paid job while studying for a university degree. There's no maximum age limit. It's open to anyone who lives and will work in Scotland. And there is no maximum age limit, and you spend most of your time learning in the job. And the difference as well with a graduate apprenticeship between, as opposed to an ordinary traditional degree, is that tasks and projects that you do in the workplace will count towards your degree. So I'm just going to start off by getting a bit of giving you a bit of information for Justin and Monica. So Monica, if I can start with you, just to tell me a little bit about yourself.
No problem. Hi. Yes, my name is Monica and I'm an apprentice web developer at a company called For It in Edinburgh. And as part of my graduate apprenticeship, I'm studying software development. Before I became an apprentice at For It, I studied software engineering full-time. I dropped out at the end of first year. I did a modern apprenticeship in business administration for a short time. And then I got the opportunity to combine the idea of doing an apprenticeship with the subject I was actually passionate about, which is software. So that's me.
Well, fantastic. And then just to move on to yourself, Justin, tell us a little bit about yourself as well.
So hi everyone, my name's Justin Akubo. I'm a second year building surveying apprentice at Graham and Sibbald Surveyors in Edinburgh. So before I became the apprentice, I was in fifth year at school. So I left straight from fifth year basically after I'd done my higher exams. So that was when I was 16. So left school, kind of went straight into the apprenticeship. Had to wait on my grades beforehand to know if I could get into the apprenticeship. So it just kind of shows that you can go straight from school into it rather than kind of going down the more advanced route that Monica went down.
Okay, and what was it that that actually made you want to apply? Because you've looked at this opportunity at a very early stage, fifth year of school. So what was it that that got you interested in applying in the first place?
So I think for me personally, it was I'd always wanted to go to university, but the idea kind of when you're in fifth year at school, going on to doing another 4 years of kind of a school experience as university, it didn't appeal to me. I kind of more wanted to get into just straight into work, but I also wanted that degree as well. So I mean, it kind of seemed like the perfect option for me, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a number of different backgrounds that we actually get onto apprenticeships, and then for yourself, Monica, you'd mentioned that you'd tried a little bit of a university degree, and for whatever reason it didn't work out in that stage. So when I suppose for you getting into apprenticeships, what was it that got you interested in a modern apprenticeship and then subsequently a graduate apprenticeship?
I didn't actually know about graduate apprenticeships when I dropped out, but I knew that if I wasn't in uni, I needed to be working full time. But I was interested in the idea of continuing to gain qualifications and building my CV, even though I dropped out and I was working. So I saw an advert for a modern apprenticeship in business admin and went for it and realized that I really liked that structure of earning and learning on the job. But obviously, yeah, business admin wasn't really my thing. So yeah.
So yeah, it's certainly interesting routes that you can get into. There's a number of different avenues in which you can apply for a graduate apprenticeship through modern apprenticeships or straight from school, or indeed if you've left university in another course and perhaps that wasn't for you and you're looking to get into something else. It's a great mechanism to do that whilst continuing to work. Before I move on, if anyone watching has any questions that they would like to ask Monica or Justin, just pop something in the comments and we'll do our best to forward that question on and get that in the conversation too. So just to continue on, Monica, about your day-to-day. So I'm quite interested to hear more about what each of you do in the workplace. So Monica, just to start with yourself, what do you do in your day-to-day in work?
No problem. I currently work on the Microsoft Education project team for it. So if anyone's interested, microsoft.com/education. That's the website that we work on. The project team I'm on is made up of about 7 people at the moment. And my job involves building and maintaining the website, as well as building tools to help the client update the website themselves for its content management system. In terms of day-to-day work, I think there's a common misconception that as a developer you spend most of your time, if not all your time, writing code. But in reality, it's, for me anyway, it's more like 50-50. You spend half your time writing code and half your time working with people. For us, it's clients over in Seattle to establish what it is that they want and how we're going to achieve it. So
okay, and with you being in your 4th year, talking about your day-to-day job role and what you do, what projects you work on, has that changed or evolved quite a lot since you started the course?
So now we're in 4th year. We have scheduled online classes once a month, and every other week we're given 1 day out of work to do like self-directed study. From 1st to 3rd year, a large portion of our grade was based on what we did at work. So we would set objectives at the start of the year and collect evidence at work to show that we were working towards those objectives, and then at the end of the year reflect on how we'd met those. But now I'm in 4th year. Our honours project kind of makes up the work-based part of the assessment. Not everybody is doing work-based projects, but my project at the moment is work-based.
It's work-based. Well, that's great. I mean, that's certainly where the benefit can come of doing the apprenticeship. And for yourself, Justin, could you tell us a little bit more about, the same question really, what you do in your day-to-day in work, and then how your university course looks as well?
So day-to-day in work, it's pretty much just because of kind of the job of surveying, it's mainly learning on the job. So going out kind of shadowing with kind of my senior colleagues, going out with them to sites, kind of being in the office as well, looking at the report side of it. So I mean, getting out and about, it's many days a week. You could be up to about 5 days a week. You could be out at sites, or it just varies completely week to week, but it is mainly kind of learning on the job, kind of shadowing colleagues. That's where we're kind of getting most of the learning from.
Yeah, so that's I mean, certainly with that working environment that you're in, it very much marries up well to an Earn While You Learn program like a graduate apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And what's the study pattern for you? What's it like when you go to university?
So I'm on a block release kind of system. So it's 6 weeks a year, 2 weeks 3 times a year. So it's what I will say, when you are at the uni for those 2 weeks, it is pretty full on, because I mean, as you can imagine, you're getting the same degree as the people who are going kind of the standard route of university. So I mean, in those 2 weeks, there is a lot of information that you are learning, but it's good in the sense that up until the run up of the next 2 weeks, you're having courseworks kind of staggered out throughout. So you're constantly kind of having to keep focused on it and keep kind of getting the work done for it. And I mean, the great thing about the apprenticeship is that I've found myself anyway, is any kind of coursework issues that I've had, anything that maybe I wasn't 100% sure about, I've got about 40, 50 people in the office there that have all been there, done it already. So I mean, it's kind of perfect to have them there that you can ask any questions, get kind of bits of help from them. So
yeah, and Monica, do you feel that's the same with in terms of a benefit for yourself as being able to get that support in areas in which you're perhaps struggling with or need more help on with, well, graduate apprentice peers, others on the course, and indeed your colleagues in the workplace?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's one of your biggest sort of learning assets as a GA, is that you're surrounded by industry professionals with years of knowledge and experience that like Justin was saying, just shadowing them and watching them do their job, you learn so much from the people around you, so you're really immersed in that. So that is one of the main benefits for me anyway. Yeah,
fantastic. And what would you what would you consider to be any the other key benefits from you doing a graduate apprenticeship?
I mean, obviously you're gaining industry experience while you're doing a degree, so that really fast tracks your career. Basically, a lot of developer roles ask for at least 3 years industry experience in addition to a degree, so you're getting all of that in 4 years rather than 6 or 7. Not only are you getting experience, but you're getting paid experience as well. A lot of internships, they don't pay at all. So, you've got that security of a full-time salary for 4 years. And you're not racking up any student debt. Skills Development Scotland are funding the whole thing. And when you graduate, you're already settled in a job. You're not having to go out and look for work. You've had 4 years to kind of get to grips with a job and really get to know the company that you're doing it with as well.
Yeah, I think that's very much a key part of it, is when you graduate, and you're graduating later in the year in your final year of the course just now. So I'd imagine that typically going into a graduate role, there's that search for a role, and then the interviewing and competition with that, and a graduate apprenticeship and having any work experience sets you ahead anyway with that. But actually just being able to graduate and go straight through into work and almost continuing on must be quite, especially in these times, it must be quite a load off your mind to have that prospect.
Definitely. It's been interesting. A lot of my friends that were on the full-time course that I dropped out of graduated at the end of last year, and yeah, it really brought home one of the big advantages of just not having to look for work when I graduate. I'm already part of a team and really enjoying what I'm doing. So yeah, that's definitely one of the main benefits.
Yeah, and Justin, from your own perspective, you're earlier in your graduate apprenticeship journey than Monica is. You're in your second year. So, what are the benefits that you've seen so far from doing the apprenticeship?
I think, for me personally, I mean, going straight from school, kind of, because I would have left school, I was 16 at the time. So leaving at 16 and going kind of straight into that, the thought of kind of doing university kind of studies and stuff at that age was pretty daunting, to be honest. But I mean, the fact, as I've said before, the fact that you've got your colleagues and all these people there that have already done it before you there to help you, it relaxes you a lot more. I mean, you've got any issues that you've got, you can get help from them. I mean, and as I said before as well, kind of me wanting to leave school and go straight into kind of work, it's impossible to do that without the apprenticeship, to do that and get a degree at the same time. And so, going straight from school into that, managing to get the degree out of it, kind of earning whilst you're learning, which is always good, isn't it?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a jump to go from school into the GA, but it's great to see that you're in your second year and already realizing the benefits of that. And just to say on the other scale of things, you're a year and a half and into the course, and notwithstanding the challenges that you have from remote work and study at the moment during lockdown, just generally speaking, first of all, what would you find to be the challenges or things that people should look out for when they join a graduate apprenticeship?
I mean, yeah, it kind of goes without saying, but I mean, when you are on those 2 week blocks, for my kind of apprenticeship personally, when you are on those 2 week blocks, kind of making sure, kind of focusing on that, because it's easy to get distracted in these kind of things, but staying focused on that, because once you pass your 2 weeks, I mean, you are able to kind of set up calls with lecturers and stuff like that if you do have any kind of issues that you need to go through. But I mean, getting kind of in touch with these kind of people after you're away from the campus and back at work, it is harder to do. So just making sure that kind of focusing kind of whilst you are there is kind of the main thing, I would say, really.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a very good bit of advice to give anyone who's joining. Now, with yourself, Monica, you're on a very different study pattern to Justin. Justin is in those 2 week blocks, whereas you're 1 day a week in university. So there might be challenges that perhaps come from that being more integrated rather than focusing on one and then the other. So, what I could ask is just the challenges that you've had from studying a graduate apprenticeship. What have you found to be the ones that you've had to overcome?
You're right. With the sort of longer gaps between scheduled classes, there's a lot of you're managing your own study time a lot more. But Justin's right in that you've got a lot of support around you, which is a big help. You've got university mentors and workplace mentors as well. I would say that balancing the work commitments with the uni commitments over the years has been one of the biggest challenges. But it's also one of the benefits of doing the GA program is that you've got that understanding on both sides from the uni and your employer that you've got these other commitments, and they're equally invested in you being able to meet those commitments. So the balance of work in uni. I also found the reflective aspect of some of the work-based assessments to be quite challenging, but also really useful as well. I don't think it's something you often do in your sort of day-to-day job, or at least I don't, think about these big questions like, what are my ultimate goals? How can I be better? What am I taking away from this experience? It's one of the more challenging aspects, but also it forces you to really get the most out of everything that you're doing as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the key differences with that reflective style of learning, and maybe the benefits of that are realized as you go on, because you'll be able to recognize the professional development that gives you. So I'm just going through some of the chat here. So I'll just bring up Vicky's question here. Can you apply for GA courses through the university, or is it through the individual company's websites? So I'll answer the first part of that. So with a graduate apprenticeship, you apply to the employer rather than the university. As an apprentice, you're first and foremost an employee. So they will advertise the jobs, and then we work with them to go through the entry requirements and make sure that they're aware of the study pattern and how best to support the apprentice. Justin, just to ask you in terms of how you applied, because you'd went down the new recruits way of applying, whereas Monica was already working for it when she registered for the course. So how did you go about applying?
So it was apprenticeship.scotland, I believe it's the website. Kind of has all the kind of apprenticeships that you'd be looking for kind of on there. I think we had a woman in kind of my school that was kind of promoting, kind of doing apprenticeship, going down the apprenticeship route. Yeah, so Apprenticeship Scotland there. I believe kind of a lot of companies though are also promoting the kind of apprenticeships on their own website. So my company, Graham and Sybil, for example, we have kind of, you can apply on our website for apprenticeship if you'd be looking to do that. But definitely the Apprenticeship Scotland website is where I went through, and everything was kind of fine on there, easy to kind of see what you're looking at. So yeah, I went through Apprenticeship Scotland. That kind of worked for me.
Yeah. That's the first place. I mean, if you were looking to apply for any apprenticeship in Scotland, whether that be a modern apprenticeship or a graduate apprenticeship, that's where you go to find the position. And for yourself, Monica, of course, it was slightly different because you were already working with the organisation, and it was basically, you'd said before that you were doing your software development degree and had dropped out of that, and then had done a modern apprenticeship. And so how did it come about that you were given the graduate apprenticeship opportunity?
So I was helping out at an event as part of my role as a business admin modern apprentice, and the event was being held at Foret's office in Waverley Gate, and that's where I met the CEO of Foret, Peter Proud, who offered me a role as an apprentice at the company. At the time, the company was running its own apprenticeship scheme, which involved doing a modern apprenticeship in IT and telecommunications, and also doing a series of Microsoft qualifications that were picked by Foret themselves for us to do. And then about 6 months into that apprenticeship, Edinburgh Napier approached Foret with the graduate apprenticeship programme, and the company is really passionate about providing alternative routes into tech. So yeah, they embraced it, and that's how we got involved with that.
Yeah. So it's there's a couple of options, and again, they would start at that Apprenticeship Scotland website, where if you're wanting to do a graduate apprenticeship, but you perhaps maybe don't have the qualifications to get onto the university course right away, or you would prefer to study at perhaps an earlier stage and do a modern apprenticeship. Graduate apprenticeships weren't launched by the time you'd started your GA, Monica, as you'd mentioned, but you can go from a modern apprenticeship into a graduate apprenticeship, and that's quite often supported by the employer. A question from Hazel on Twitter that I can answer. So if you've already accepted on a business degree course, or we'll say that for any traditional on-campus course starting in September, are there options to change to a graduate apprenticeship? So graduate apprenticeship courses are advertised on Apprenticeship Scotland, and you apply for the employer rather than through UCAS. So you can apply for GA positions separately from UCAS. So if I were to give you any advice for that, is to absolutely hold your place on the on-campus degree that you've been accepted for. But if you see any graduate apprenticeship opportunities that you're interested in and want to apply for, then you can do that with a CV and a cover letter to individual job positions. Graduate apprenticeships aren't as high in volume as on-campus programs, but you can apply for GAs risk-free from that perspective. It won't affect your traditional uni applications. So to just go through some more questions that we have, here's quite a useful one here from Matthew. Now, we are talking generally and not in the context of the lockdown and remote study and working just now. But just to start with, since it mentions the block release first, we'll start with you, Justin. Do you still have access to university facilities such as the library outside of your 2-week block release?
Yeah, so everything kind of I've had to use has all been pretty much online. So you've got kind of like the online library as well. So you can kind of get everything downloaded from there rather than having to go in and get kind of a physical copy. I mean, I think that kind of nowadays everything is kind of all online. So, I mean, yeah, outside of the 2 weeks, you've got your kind of library you can go on to. You can go into campus outside of the 2 weeks if you want to. You are kind of still a student there, so you're still allowed to all the kind of facilities that they've got there. So I think just kind of taking advantage of those things is also good as well, because I mean, it'd be easy enough to kind of think that you're not meant to go in or whatever like that, but I mean, you're allowed to go in, so make full use of it, I'd say.
Yeah, and is that something, Monica, that you do as well, outside of your day release, perhaps, that you're in the 1 day a week that you're in uni?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I miss it now with the pandemic and everything, but it was a really, really useful resource to have, to be able to go into campus and get a study space away from the office and away from home, where you can just focus on uni work. So yeah, we have access to all the on-campus facilities. You get your student card, you get your student discounts, all the good stuff, you know.
That's one key thing to remember. You are a fully matriculated student as a graduate apprentice, so you do get a student card. You do have access to the all of the study spaces and facilities. And just following on from that, Monica, now you'd mentioned the lockdown, and you've not been able to go in to get that separation from your work and your study space and actually go into uni and fully focus on that. But just more generally, with your apprenticeship, with your work and your study, how have you found lockdown and working remotely?
It's I think for everyone it's been a bit of a challenge, bit of an adjustment, but I've actually found that as the years have gone on, the stuff we're doing at uni has merged more and more with what I'm doing at work anyway. So especially in 4th year, the honours project is a big part of what I'm doing at work at the moment. So it feels like they feel very much integrated now, whereas before, you know, when you're doing 1st and 2nd year, you're doing very specific modules that maybe aren't to do with what you're doing at work so much. So there is more of a separation between what you're working on in your study days and what you're working on the rest of the week, whereas now it feels more like I'm working on my honours project throughout the week anyway at work, and my study days are just a chance to focus on the other modules that we have alongside that, and get some extra focus time on the honours project too. So it's been slightly easier due to the fact that 4th year and work have sort of become more integrated, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's you're really reaping the benefits of that overlap there, certainly. And how for yourself, Justin, I can imagine coming straight out of school, going into an apprenticeship, then being less than a year in, being plunged into lockdown and doing everything remotely is going to have its challenges. How have you found everything?
Yeah, so I mean, what I will say, it's not been perfect. I mean, I'd prefer to be in on campus. I mean, yeah, when you're on campus, any questions you've got, you can ask the lecturers. You're there, you're seeing everything kind of in the flesh. Whereas on the calls and stuff, when you're cramming kind of all these people onto calls, kind of it just doesn't seem as accessible to kind of get help if you do need it. But I mean, then again, it's the best that we can do just now. And I mean, as long as you're kind of applying yourself, and if you do need to ask questions, then asking. It does take a wee bit to try and kind of get confidence to ask and all these kind of things when you're on kind of calls rather than in person. But I mean, yeah, just kind of getting that done it helps a lot.
Yeah, you raise a very good point about asking for that help as well. If you've got work colleagues, you've got program leads at the university who all want you to pass the course, so getting into that routine of asking for help is going to be really beneficial. So just to round off, there's a couple of questions in the chat here that I'm going to try and answer into one here. So from Sunny and Laura, so apprenticeships, graduate apprenticeships go up to master's degree level. We just offer undergraduate degrees just now, so honours degrees, primarily in our School of Engineering and Built Environment, School of Computing, and our business school. So I will post a couple of links for you to see what we offer in particular, and then our email address if you want to contact us. But just finally, to round off, Monica, what advice would you give to anyone who wants to do a grad apprenticeship?
I would say, first off, your attitude and your work ethic, the way you work with people will take you further than any qualification ever will. So that's an important one. Be ready to work really hard. As a GA especially, your subject area will become your whole life. You'll be completely immersed in it. So yeah, you've got to be passionate about it. Take every opportunity that you're given to challenge yourself. Take every challenge that comes your way, even if you make mistakes. It's just an opportunity to learn. As Justin was saying before, absorb as much as you can from the experienced professionals around you. They're one of your biggest assets as a GA, and most of all, just enjoy it. Like, now that I'm in fourth year, we've me and the other fourth years were getting all, we're looking back on the good old days in first year, and it's been an amazing 4 years. It really has. So yeah, enjoy it. Enjoy the opportunity, I guess, and yeah, have fun.
Seems like time has absolutely flown since you started.
It's crazy.
As well.
Yeah.
And is there anything, Justin, that you could add to what Monica said there?
Yeah, pretty much what I'd just say is just kind of staying focused. I mean, it's pretty obvious to say, but I mean, just that focus, that when you are at the 2 weeks, well, for me personally at uni, kind of keeping focus in those 2 weeks. I know it seems like it's only 2 weeks, but those 2 weeks for the bigger picture help out so much more if you have been fully kind of paying attention. And that's even out on surveys, even out with your colleagues and stuff, just constantly trying to kind of pick up, asking questions, because that's the only way that you're going to learn about it. If you kind of sit quiet, then you're never going to learn. You just kind of get overshadowed. But yeah, definitely being kind of confident with everything you're doing, kind of staying focused, and yeah, asking as many questions as you can, really.
Well, some great pieces of advice there from both of you, and we're just going to bring things to a close now. We've gone a little bit over our time here, but if anyone has any more questions that they want to ask that we've perhaps not covered, just to re-emphasize that you can apply for any apprenticeship, including graduate apprenticeships, on the Apprenticeship Scotland website, www.apprenticeships.scot. For more information on any courses that we offer and the details of those, you can go to napier.ac.uk/apprenticeships. If you have any other questions for the university, so that would be myself or my colleagues, you can email us at ga@napier.ac.uk. But all that's left to say is, Justin and Monica, thank you so much for your time this afternoon and going through your experiences.
Thank you both. It was a pleasure.
Perfect. And thanks everyone for listening. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.